This is for the week of May 23rd through May 27th. Here we go. Now that we are more onto steady production, basically that will be from now, well, we started it last week too actually, last week until, well, end of October really, will be steady. But we still are not quite in high season yet. High season is the period where the farm is peaking. So if you imagine a typical farm season as somewhat of a bell curve, you know, you start with less product because it's colder and there's less daylight hours. So most farms in North America will have sort of a bell curve. The objective of, you know, running good business practices on a farm is to have like reducing the bell as much as you can, not by reducing your high point sales, but increasing your low point sales. And so this is what we refer to as the shoulder season. The beginning and the end of the season is to bring those sales up, and that's generally what we do on our farm. Because when you peak, for us, that is about the months of end of June till the first week of September. This is our peak production. It's peak production for two reasons. One is it's the time where the farm is producing the most stuff. Daylight hours are at near their maximum, but the temperatures are very warm. So that's the first reason. The second reason is this is when there's a lot of tourists coming into our city. So the restaurants are really busy. Everybody's out enjoying the summer weather. They're eating salads on the terrace, and there's a lot of people in town. So a lot of towns will kind of go through that seasonal fluctuation. Ours is one like many that does that. So when we're at peak production, there's not much we can do to increase production. So if our season looks kind of like a bell curve, it still is, even though we do a lot more in the shoulder season, there's not much we can do to increase production on the peak because everything that can be available is available. So the key to running a successful farming business is to increase your sales on the shoulder season. So in the beginning, near the end, and that's what we do. So we are now into the main season of our farm where we've finished all the setup. You know, we're still working on little projects here and there on the home base, but from this point on, we're pretty much just running steady production. It's planting, weekly planting, so we're planting things every single week now, not only microgreens, but things in the field. We're consistently harvesting things, and we're consistently turning beds over, and we are almost completely maxed out with all of our beds. This will be the last week where we have any open areas. So we're gonna finish planting one of our other plots this week. That will be the last of the beds that we have available to us, and then from that point, which is very on schedule, this is what always happens, we have nowhere else to plant unless we have beds coming off. So Mark is out in the front yard turning beds over right now, and this is exactly what's going to continue to happen. We can only keep planting if we have beds being turned over from product that's finished. All right, Mark is turning these beds over. So we've cut all of them multiple times, and now we're going to turn them over. So he's doing the no-till turnover that you guys have seen before. Right now he's stirrup-hoeing out what's remaining, and we'll remove that stuff, put it in the compost pile, and then turn these beds over, replant them, and then put the drip lines back on. Our neighbor's plot is pretty maxed out right now. We're harvesting this lettuce. We'll continue to do so this week. We'll be succession harvesting these beds for a few weeks, and we'll be cropping out radishes in here, turning those over and planting them again. So it won't be too long that this site is already onto its second planting with some of the beds there. What also is going to happen maybe today, maybe tomorrow, hopefully today, is we're going to turn over this bed of spinach. We're going to stirrup hoe it just like the one you saw Mark doing in the front, and prep it, and we're going to put basil transplants into there. Our basil plants are really big, so it won't be long until we start picking them. What is also happening on a very regular basis at this point is we're managing our tomatoes, and you can see here these tomatoes are a little over 3 feet tall now, and they've got a lot of flowers on them. On some of them we even have fruit. We have some fruits coming in on some of these guys down here. These are our ox heart varieties. They're already setting fruit. That's a really good sign. And so what's happening now is about once a week we're coming in here and we're pruning off all of our suckers and we're twisting them up the string, and I'll do a video on that so you guys will see how that process is done. But we're really starting to get more into heavier tomato management just because they're really starting to accelerate their growth, and it won't be too long before all of these other salad greens are out of this greenhouse, and then it's just tomatoes taking over. The tomatoes in this greenhouse are going on 7 feet tall now, a little over, and they're producing quite steadily. It's not a huge yield, and you know, I've talked about this whole thing with planting in pots before. It wasn't the greatest success, but I mean, you can see lots of ripe tomatoes on here, and they are incredibly sweet, these ones. I think they're almost sweeter than normal because they're in pots, because there's less, they have less water or something, there's less soil for them to use. They seem to be abnormally sweet. I had one of these sun golds this morning, and it was like almost like a candy. It was just incredibly sweet. So we are harvesting these. We took some to market this week. They were sold out in like half an hour, so they're not lasting very long, but it's cool. It's kind of cool to have some production happening here, and I'm gonna do another video again on pruning. You guys will see this week. So this is the basil that is gonna go in the ground today or tomorrow. Nice big healthy plants, and it's the first time I've done it this way. I mentioned it a bit last week, but usually I have smaller plugs that go on the ground, and one thing I don't like about doing that, what I've done in the past, is that if you get a couple cold days, it really shocks them, and it really takes a lot longer for them to get going. So we tried an experiment this year where we potted them up, much like we do our tomatoes, let them get bigger in the greenhouse, which is an ideal climate for them, and then put them out into the ground, and the hope is that they'll be producing a lot quicker than if we were putting them in as like a, you know, a small transplant, like something like this in a 200 cell block. Tuesday early afternoon, and I'm just checking up on one of our newly planted high rotation plots. Half of this segment is planted out now. We planted some beets here last week to replace some really poorly germinated beets we had at another plot, our bi-rotation plot. They did horribly, and I've had this weed problem at this plot for years. It was literally in my first year of farming. I rototilled, you know, obviously a huge mistake. I rototilled this area where I was growing tomatillos, which is a crop that I would never grow again, but I did. And for 6 years prior or afterwards, I have still been getting tomatillos coming up like weeds. And so we've decided to just go ahead and replace those and plant some more at this plot. So those are just starting to come up now. You can start to see them germinate. One thing that seems to be happening here, which is interesting, I'll just kind of point out to you as I observe my surroundings, is it seems like I'm getting less water in this side than I am over here. So there's a couple things that might be affecting that. One is this crabapple tree. That might be the main reason, because this is getting a little bit more shade throughout the day, and this side has always been more exposed. So what I might do to counter that is increase the times on the impact heads, maybe on these two, to maybe get a bit more water over there. But everything else seems to be doing very well. We've got good germination on all this stuff. My carrots are doing really well. I'm excited about that. It's nice to see a carrot crop come up with very few weeds. Of course, there's always still some weeds in there. You know, weed pressure is always going to be an issue blowing in from other places, but it's nothing that isn't manageable. These are carrots that I've planted for baby carrots specifically. So I'm doing 7 rows on 30 inches, and they'll be harvested at about 4 or 5 inches long, and it's a premium product. So it's a baby root vegetable. That's what I primarily specialize in for as far as root vegetables go. So these are doing really well. You can see Nice germination there, nice thick stands. And again, that's the advantage of stale seed bedding and tarping. You can see it all right there. Okay, so interestingly, I found the problem. This sprinkler, these are kind of the things that we troubleshoot all the time. Okay, look at how the head is positioned. It's become jammed on the post. So this needs to be adjusted. So what I will probably need to do is come back here with my drill and undo this little piece here and reposition it and tighten it so it stays like it, the way it's supposed to go is like this, 180 degrees. But it was jammed down that it was only blasting about a 20-degree angle over there. That's why everything looks super wet here and everything's dry over here. So that's a temporary fix right now, just me fixing this by hand. So I will come back a little later of the day and just slide over here and just adjust that with my drill so that that doesn't jam up again. And these are the kind of things that you have to do. You know, if you don't come to your plots consistently enough, you know, if I hadn't noticed this and I'd let this slide for another 2 days, then all of that seed would have it wouldn't have germinated and it would have been a loss. So it's a good thing that I discovered that now and that we can fix it right away. Okay, so what I've done to just counter this temporarily is I'm just running the sprinkler on manual right now for 20 minutes, and I've just adjusted that head to run 90 degrees just to dump some more water in the area that it was missing. So it's a temporary fix, and I'll come back later with my tools and properly repair that impact head. And just having a look around here, I'll probably come and just make sure everything else is running here properly, because there's a good chance that there might be a couple of the problems that I'm missing. Just sliding in to check on one of my other plots here, which is only about 2 blocks from the last one I was just at. And I just wanted to show you guys, like last week I was talking about arugula on drip irrigation. Look how much better arugula is on overhead. It's day and night. It's quite staggering actually. This has already been cut once. It's just coming into a second cut. We cut it last week, probably early week, I think Wednesday, midweek. So it's already coming back for a second cut and it's looking good. Good enough, at least. Nice thick stand, thick harvest. We'll probably get 30 or 40 pounds off those 2 beds this week. Let them grow a bit more, cut them on Thursday. Should be a good harvest. Another irrigation failure we had at this plot. I don't know how it happened. I'm starting to wonder if somebody's sabotaging my plots. I'm just kidding, I doubt that would happen, but you can see really spotty germination here. And this was because these sprinklers weren't set properly, and basically the on and off valves on these impact heads here were turned off for some reason. I don't know why. It's possible that one of us just forgot to reset them, and we've got a pretty not great germination rate. Red Russian kale is okay. I'll leave that. I'll accept that. You know, might be only 70%, but that's okay. These radishes and turnips are pretty bad. I would say that's about a 40% germination rate. What I might do is call it a loss. I'm already producing more radishes that I need right now anyways, because summer is coming on. Radishes become a little bit less in demand. I might just call it a loss and flame weed those 2 beds, just killing that crop and then direct seeding into it right away again. Plant something else in it. Thinking that's going to be my course of action, but I'm gonna look at my spreadsheets and look at our production and see what else is coming and what I might predict that we need in the time that it might take for these to grow. Might decide, you know what, I'll live with it, but most likely I'm usually pretty quick to terminate something if it's going to be less than 50%. I'm usually pretty quick to pull the trigger and just say, call it a loss, plant something else. If I plant radishes in here today, they would germinate in 3 to 4 days anyway, so they wouldn't be that far behind, because we're still at this phase in the season where the days are exponentially getting longer. And you know, I planted these about a week ago, whereas the days today is longer than it was a week ago. That if I plant this today, it wouldn't take too much longer to catch up to this. So it might be a good opportunity to call it a loss and just replant it. These beds here were turned over last week by the guys, and there's 3 there. They're 33-foot beds. They're kind of abnormally shaped beds just because of the the placement of the house and the property. So I'm gonna let them cook, let those weeds germinate. I don't need to plant those beds right away. Not exactly sure what I'll put in here yet. It may be beets or something like that, but I will let them sit for a little while. They're baking under that black tarp, and it's wet, so any weeds that are in there are germinating, and won't take long till they're all killed off. So I'll just wait on these beds to plant them. We had quite a bit of root maggot damage over the last couple weeks on our turnips. So this is a bed at a new plot that was covered from the beginning. So just gonna check on it now and see how it's doing. So I tried this one at a different density. I did this 5 rows on 30 inches with a slightly heavier seed density in row. And so we got little guys like this. No root maggot damage. That's a good thing. All right, this afternoon I'm just doing some basic accounting work. Not really that exciting, but I just wanted to show you guys that this is something that I do every week. You know, it might only take me 10 minutes. Basically what I do is I get checks from my restaurant customers, and they'll have a pay stub attached to them, and I'm just going through and going into my accounting software and just putting who paid what, and then so I have a record of that those invoices were settled, and then I just get on my bike and zip downtown and make a deposit into the bank. All right, well, the week has kind of blown by. We've been just doing a lot of our usual stuff, but we started a new project here. So my friend Doug is doing this for us while we continue to do our usual stuff for the farm. I'm going to be harvesting some lettuce. Right now, Mark is out harvesting kale and spinach. He'll be back with that product, then he's going to go to another plot and get some other greens and other stuff like that. But what we're doing now is we're kind of connecting my greenhouse to my house and making this a more consolidated work area that has a lot more space than the last one we had, and be a lot more professional, proper roofing and rain gutters and all that. Gonna start setting up rainwater collection on my house and off the greenhouse, which will be nice. All right, so this plot now is in full production. So remember, we started work on this plot early April, first week of April. It is now the 3rd week of May. Is that what it is? The 3rd week of May? It's around the 20th. It's almost the end of May. So from 2 months, we had a shitty lawn, and now we have a fully productive urban farm plot. These radishes will be harvested perhaps today. Cropping out a lot of this lettuce right now, and this lettuce has been yielding incredibly. We'll probably pull 500 or more pounds on a few different cuts from each of these beds, this segment of lettuce, over the next few weeks, so that is amazing. Arugula here, ready to get into our first cut as well, and our patty pan squash are doing very well. You can see here that we have completely fabriced everything, so we don't want to work on weeds, we want to work on crops, because the crop pays, and that's one of the fundamental principles that we follow on our farm here, is focus on the tasks that pay, the things that have a measurable return. Weeding doesn't have a measurable return, and so that's what we've done here. So now everything is fabriced, so we don't have to worry about weed pressure. We do in the beds, but we can manage that, and this plot is in full production mode. Friday morning, another rainy day. Fortunately, we've got mostly everything harvested. We've just got to do some harvesting in the greenhouse of microgreens. Roger's harvesting tomatoes right now, and I think we got some turnips to harvest, but other than that, which are right here, so it's close by. Other than that, we've got everything that we need, and we're just going to be spending the day packing.
I'm going to give these guys a... I'm looking at this, and there's still got a few tomatoes in there. Yeah, still got quite a few.
Well, it's Friday, 2:30, and we're done for the day. We actually finished around 1:30, so that's great. We're ahead, so we're now just really rolling, and yeah, we can finish early on Friday. I'll probably end up just doing some cleanup around here, and well, we've done all the cleanup, but I might just work on a few more projects. We're waiting on some roofing material to finish this roof, so that won't happen until next week. So, but yeah, basically we're just kind of streaming now, and we're not really pushing long days. We've got a few tomatoes for market tomorrow, which is nice. Those tomatoes in the greenhouse weren't super productive, but we've got early tomatoes, and the cool thing is that we will have them consistently until our other tomatoes come on, and so it means that we'll have tomatoes from now. We've had them for 2 weeks. We had them last week at market, and we've been eating them ourselves for almost a month. But we'll have them now until mid-October, so that's pretty exciting. It's the end of the day. We had a bit of a rainy part of the afternoon, so I just stayed home and relaxed a little bit, did some computer work. But anyways, the sun came out and I've decided just to come back in the field and do a checkup on some of our plots. So just come here to one of our high rotation plots. This plot is about 6 blocks from my house. It's across the highway, so it takes me 5 minutes to get here at least. And I'm just having a look at what I've got here. So these 2 beds here that are covered with fabrics, those were covered because it's something that we're getting in the habit of doing now, is when we crop out a bed, we leave fabrics like this at a site and we just immediately cover it. So if it's not going to be turned over right away, we just cover the bed. So you can see the remnants of the radish under there, and so early this coming week we'll turn over these beds and replant them to something else. Because of the situation we had with those crops not germinating, I'm going to, while I'm here, I'm going to fire up the irrigation. I'm just going to fire up each zone and make sure that it's running, and I like the way that it looks as it's running. So basically, just take off my covers here. I cover these because it gets so hot here. This is facing the south with black tarps everywhere. It gets so hot that if I don't cover it and really shade it well, the batteries just die. It just cooks the machine. So I've got my 2 timers here, and basically I have this site has 6 zones, and I'll explain this system another time, but right now all I'm going to do is just go into my manual settings on this timer. And you can, whatever timer you're using, you would have different ways of doing this, but on this one I just pressed the enter button. So I just fired up one of the zones, and I'm just watching the sprinklers to make sure that they're going in the pattern that they're supposed to go in. So those are both on the corner, and they should be both running at 90 degrees. So I'm just making sure that they're doing that. You know, I just noticed that this sprinkler over here is not going as 90 degrees as it should. I'll go over there and I'll show you. I'll just get closer to it. Okay, so this could be part of the reason why this is continuing to not look very germinated here. If you see, the sprinkler is not tracking all the way. That sprinkler, an overhead sprinkler like that, should basically be reaching the sprinkler next to it and this one. So it should be coming towards me. So this means that for some reason it hasn't done that. So all I do is adjust this so that it reaches the other one. You can see there, it's a bit too far there, but okay. So what's happened is the whole sprinkler was off kilter for some reason. It was spraying more into my neighbor's yard and not going far enough there. So now I've adjusted it that it's doing exactly what I want it to do. So you can see that it reaches over there, trying to keep some of that water up the lens, and it reaches here. So now that's doing what I want it to do. Okay, so that was the first overhead zone. We got that sorted out. So these are things that we're always doing to some degree. So now I'm just gonna fire up the next zone. So I'm just turning that off. Okay, that's off. Now I'm gonna fire up zone 3, it's called, and see what happens when I turn that on. Okay, so it's these 2 180s that we've got going, and let's see if they're doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, so it's coming far enough this way, but it looks like it's not going far enough that way. Now watch. It technically is, but you want to have them overlap a little bit, because right when it goes, if it goes right to that 180 point, and then it retracts right away. It doesn't spend as much time as it would if you just made it go a little bit further, and then it gets a little bit more on the edge of that bed, which is what I want. So I'm just going to extend this one a little bit more, just so that it overlaps with the other one a little bit. There, like that. That's more what I want. I can hear my neighbors listening to Pink Floyd, Shine On You Crazy Diamonds. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so this one is also not doing what it's supposed to do. This one is going on a 90-degree pattern when it should be going on a 180-degree pattern. So we have had some challenges with irrigation this season. So now I'm setting it, okay, no. Let's see here. There. That's what we want. So that's also part of the problem here. You know, sometimes these things just, they happen. Shit happens, as they say. Okay, now I'm happy with that. That might be even a little bit too far. Alright, just came to another one of my plots. This one is 2 blocks from the one we were just at. And I just came to pop in and check on how things are doing. Things are looking pretty good. These beds, we actually didn't even plant them this week, so we kind of skipped a week with planting. And sometimes I can do that because I know my growth cycles are getting so much shorter at this time of year that if I miss a week of planting, a crop that I plant today might be ready the same time as a crop I planted 5 days ago, because the days are getting so much longer and it's getting so much warmer. Anyways, I'm looking at this. Is pretty good. Germination good here. Germination is doing not bad here. These are beets. And so I want to show you guys something that's interesting. Is you can notice that on the last 6 feet of beds here, it's drier. And from what we saw at the last plot, the assumption would be, oh, it must be the irrigation. Well, it's not. It's the tree. And this is why I tell people you really want to stay off the drip line of a tree. And I am. Normally I am, but I pruned this tree last year. So we might have to prune it again. It's in an easement. So this is between this house here and the house behind us, there's a legal easement of 12 feet. And so it's sort of no man's land. And so we're gonna have to take responsibility to prune that. We'll get a ladder and some saws in here and cut off some of the big branches, and that will make a difference because it will allow rainwater to drip in there, but it will also affect the roots as well. At least this is my understanding of it. Scientifically, I don't know if that's actually true, but when I've done this in the past, it's worked. So that's what we're gonna do. So you can see how it is drier here, right? Germination is still okay, you know. Maybe for this last 5 feet, we got 50% germination, but overall the beds are looking good. These are all carrots, densely planted baby carrots. Those are looking pretty good. And our spinach here is doing fantastic. We have very little weed pressure on this plot this year because we tarped it for so long. It had so much time to go to do stale seed beds, so it's very clean, which is nice. Having said that, I do see some small amounts of germinating weeds in some walkways. So I have my stirrup hoe with me on my bike, so I'm actually going to just give it a little scuffle hoe. It'll take me probably 5 minutes or less. Okay, just coming and checking on this plot, and it looks pretty good. These 2 beds are prepped. Those are ready to be planted, so we'll plant those first thing Monday morning. With what, I'm not exactly sure. I know it won't be any radishes or turnips because that's where we had the root maggot problems. So I'm thinking it'll be either spinach, arugula. I'd like it to be lettuce transplants, but I don't have any that are ready to go in the ground right now. So something else is gonna go in there. Some kind of salad green, some kind of cut and coming in green. Spinach here is doing very well. I brought my stirrup hoe with me, so I'm just going to hit these walkways, just this walkway here. It's getting a bit grassy. And I'm also starting to see a bit more of my friend or foe, the Russian pigweed. This weed is look how early it goes to seed. It's crazy. Whenever I see it, I pull it out. But it's not it's not a big deal here, but it can be. I've had at other plots before, I've had it really bad, and so I try to just stay on it. There's not a lot, but when I see it, I pick it out. Alright, this tunnel still has a little bit of lettuce in it. There'll be one more cut on this and then it's done. These tomatoes are doing very, very well. You can see we've got lots of beautiful fruit on these guys. Heavy fruit sets. I don't know offhand what variety this is, but I already like what I'm seeing. We tried a few different new cherry varieties this year, and I'm assuming that that has got to be at least one of them. Might be the Sunrise Bumblebee is a Johnny's seed. That might be it. Sweet. We still have lots of lettuce in the greenhouses too. In this one we've got lots happening. It'll be the last cut. So if one thing I could do right now, see, a challenge we're having is that it's hard to prune these tomatoes, particularly this row. It's just too hard to get in here right now. So if I take out this row of tomatoes, if I harvest that lettuce, then we'll be able to get in, walk over here, reach this row and this row, and with this one already gone, we can reach this row and this row, and in here we can reach this row. So if I had to get rid of a bed of lettuce right now, I would do this one so that we could manage these tomatoes better. Since we got this plot into production so quickly, we can see as we've harvested these bits of radishes, there's weeds and grass in here. So what will happen on Monday or Tuesday, we will crop out all of these radishes and pull the drip off, immediately flame weed it, and then we might even go in with a stirrup hoe or hand pull any weeds or deep-rooted weeds that we see. We'll do that before we turn the beds over to plant them again, just so we have less weeds coming the next time. Okay, so we've had a couple days of rain and it's really helped. The patty pan squashes now and zucchinis are very established. And I want to show you guys something, is when you first put squash in the ground, it often looks like it's not doing that well because you'll have leaves that are like this. Like they'll be of the two leaves that were there when you planted them. So just to give you another example, like this, kind of yellowing here too. And you'll often think, oh man, I don't know, they look kind of sick. And you'll be kind of worried that they might not do that well, but it kind of always does that, I find. I have no explanation for it. And I'm sure there is an explanation for it, but they bounce back, and the new leaves that come after it look great and healthy. So kind of once it's established itself, then the new growth comes along and they start to do really well. So these are doing great. We've got, see, there's those leaves. We've got flowers, we've got fruits, little yellow zucchinis coming in. I bet you in 3 weeks we'll be getting the first pickings of some nice baby zucchinis. That would be nice. So that is the week, guys. We finished the main work of the farm around 2 o'clock, and then I took you on that tour, which was about an hour. And what I was doing in that whole process was fixing things that I saw that needed to be fixed, whether they be quick things, but I was also making notes, and I put all that stuff on my smartphone saying, okay, I've got this bed and this bed will be ready by this day. This bed will be ready by Friday. I should plant these 2 beds here on Monday. Things like this. I'm making notes of what are going to be the things that I want to do this week. So all of that goes into a list, basically, and I don't necessarily delegate who does what or exactly when those things need to be done at that point. Some of them I do. I say this needs to be done right away and so on and so forth. But I'm just making a short list, and I will update it like on Monday in the morning when I kind of start to really assess, okay, what needs to happen now. That's when I'm looking at that list and saying, okay, this is going to get done here by this person and so on and so forth. And I might make adjustments to those things as I encounter weather or other things that are going to delay certain things getting done, because we always have to maintain the priority things that we're doing. That is, Monday morning we have 2 big orders that we have to fill, 3 big orders actually. So those need to get done no matter what, and then how do we fit in all the other things that we need to get done, right? Because we have our urgent must-do tasks, and then we have our important tasks, and then we have tasks that are things that we might, projects that we can work on. So they're sort of prioritized in that way. So anyways, I hope you guys have been finding these videos useful. I definitely enjoy making them, and thank you so much to those who have been donating to the show. I really appreciate it, and it's really given me a bit more freedom to step back off the farm. I've taken on another part-time person to help with the packing so that I can step off the farm perhaps another 10 hours a week and focus on making more content. So expect some more stuff coming soon. And again, if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button right now, like and share the videos with your friends. Check out my online course, profitableurbanfarming.com, and of course my book at theurbanfarmer.co. All right guys, we'll see you next week.